The world of mixed martial arts thrives on chaos, controversy, and charisma. And right now, no one embodies all three more than Conor McGregor. But this time, the controversy surrounding the former UFC double champion isn't confined to the octagon. It's playing out in courtrooms, in newsrooms, and behind the scenes in the UFC's top brass, triggering ripple effects that could rewrite the UFC's rules and shake the foundations of its championship structure. Let's begin with the BOMBSHELL.CONOR McGregor. The UFC's most polarizing figure is once again entangled in legal trouble, and it's deeper and more dangerous than anything he's faced before. Just yesterday, McGregor's appeal against the guilty rape verdict entered a volatile new phase. His legal team had reportedly uncovered new evidence suggesting the victim was actually assaulted by her then-boyfriend, not McGregor. On the night in question, two individuals submitted sworn affidavits supporting this claim. But in a shocking twist, McGregor's lawyers abruptly withdrew both the evidence and the affidavits. Just moments before today's court hearing, the courtroom was stunned. The alleged victim's legal team erupted in fury, accusing Camp of re-traumatizing her and using false or unreliable claims to stir up sensationalism. They demanded a formal apology. The presiding judge, citing the extraordinary turn of events, referred the matter to the Director of Public Prosecutions to investigate whether the couple who submitted affidavits committed perjury. But that wasn't the only concern now. McGregor himself may face scrutiny for subordination, perjury, a serious charge, alleging he may have induced others to lie under oath. If found guilty, it could spark a brand new criminal prosecution against the already embattled fighter. This legal nightmare comes at a time when the UFC is already navigating stormy waters of its own. In a sweeping internal review, the organization is reportedly preparing to institute a dramatic new policy. Champions who break certain high-profile conduct rules could be fined millions. According to insiders, UFC President Dana White and the executive team are furious over the recurring image issues that come with having volatile champions. While the UFC has long embraced drama to sell pay-per-views, there's a growing recognition that the McGregor-style controversies are doing long-term damage to the company's public image and relationships with sponsors. One proposed policy gaining traction: any reigning UFC champion involved in a criminal investigation or civil case involving serious allegations, for example, assault, sexual misconduct, drug trafficking, may be fined between $500,000 and $5 million, depending on the severity and publicity of the case. Repeat offenders could face mandatory suspensions or immediate stripping of their titles. This policy, unofficial for now, is being described by sources close to the UFC as the McGregor Clause. There's more. Recent reports reveal UFC championship belts themselves are tied to increasingly strict conditions. Fighters must now sign contracts acknowledging that if a belt is lost, stolen, or damaged, they could be personally liable for up to $300,000. The approximate cost of the real championship hardware. Leon Edwards, in an offhand comment during a podcast, confirmed this. "If it goes missing, I'm paying for it," he said. "It's in a very safe spot." The message is clear. The UFC is tightening its grip on champion behavior, both inside and outside the cage. But the Conor situation isn't going away quietly. Just days before the latest court hearing, McGregor had resumed public media appearances. He laughed off criticism, continued promoting his whiskey brand, and even teased another octagon return. But now, with this new legal curveball, he's once again become a lightning rod, and it's raising difficult questions for Dana White and company. Can the UFC continue promoting a fighter who may be facing a second criminal prosecution? Can a star, even one as historically important as Conor, be allowed to return to the cage amid a cloud of such serious legal scrutiny? Or has the UFC finally reached its limit? Privately, sources say that Hunter Campbell, the UFC's chief business officer, has been leading internal conversations on creating a formal legal code of conduct for champions. This would expand beyond the traditional athletic commission rules and into lifestyle conduct, mirroring the NFL's personal conduct policy. At the same time, UFC's promotional machine is trying to pivot, finding new stars who can draw eyes without drawing subpoenas. Enter Ilia Topuria, The Spanish Georgian phenom has quickly risen from obscurity to claim dual division dominance. His brutal knockouts of Charles Oliveira and Islam Makhachev have earned him comparisons to Khabib Nurmagomedov and a rapidly growing fan base. But he's not just a fighter. He's also ... wealthy. I asked him about the $2 million gym he has in his house. One commentator joked. He laughed and said, "Yeah, I got family money. Ilya's rich, like real rich." Even Arman Tsarukyan, another top contender, has been spotted casually devouring luxury caviar, allegedly costing over $1,000 per bite. The MMA world has never quite seen this. Two rich kids, both freakishly talented, squaring off not for a paycheck, but for legacy. But Topuria isn't all velvet gloves and trust funds. He's cold, calculated, and downright terrifying inside the cage. When Charles Oliveira tried to push forward against him, the same style that won him multiple bonuses, Ilya dissected him, passed his guard, crucified him, and then violently finished him. Charles went in like it was his first amateur bout, said one analyst. He just stood there and traded with a guy who hits like a truck. What the hell was that game plan? Topuria's balance of wrestling, timing, and raw power has created a nightmare for the matchmakers. The only real question now is, who can challenge him? Many believe Arman Tsarukyan is the man. He's a relentless grappler, a well-rounded technician, and someone who believes Topuria has been gifted to many opportunities. He wouldn't even be here if not for the beef with Paddy. Arman has said, "When I was somebody and he was a nobody, he called me out to build his name. Now look where we are. But I'm going to expose him. Yet the path to that fight may be murky." Dana White is juggling rising stars, contractual obligations, and a growing PR disaster in McGregor. And according to insiders, White may not be eager to give Topuria a grinder like Tsarukyan right now. Dana doesn't like pitting killers against killers when there's no heat. One UFC official told us, "Paddy versus Ilya sells. Arman versus Ilya, that's for the purists." Still, Tsarukyan remains laser-focused. "I'm not here to box him. I'm here to show him MMA. I'll clinch. I'll upkick. I'll wrestle. He won't know where it's coming from." Meanwhile, the welterweight division is heating up. Islam Makhachev, fresh off his loss to Topuria, is rumored to be scouting a move up. Sources confirm Hunter Campbell traveled to Dagestan to pitch Islam on a potential bout with the winner of Jack Della Maddalena versus Bilal Muhammad. He told me, "Just shake hands and fight. It's business. See who the best in the world is," Islam said. In a recent interview after that, "We'll see what's next." Islam, despite the defeat, remains an elite force. His awkward but effective striking, combined with suffocating wrestling, still makes him a nightmare matchup, especially for opponents who can't stop the takedown. If Jack can stop the takedown, one coach said his size in boxing could wear on Islam. But if Islam gets inside, changes levels, it's over. This next chapter will define the lightweight and welterweight divisions for years. But looming above all of it is the question, can the UFC afford another scandal? With the real championship belts now worth hundreds of thousands and their symbolism teetering on the brink, the organization is in uncharted waters. It wants legacy, it wants stars, but it also wants control. And that's why a formal policy is coming. Insiders say that as early as UFC 36 champions could be forced to sign contracts that spell out massive fines for public misconduct. Think $1 million for first-time criminal charges, $2.5 million for repeat offenses, potential bans for those under active investigation, title defenses withheld, media appearances canceled, belt repossession in extreme cases. The UFC is done playing defense. It's going on the offensive, and while Dana White may not say it publicly, the McGregor saga has forced his hand. Once the biggest cash cow in combat sports, Conor McGregor now represents the UFC's greatest risk. His return, which once would have set arenas ablaze, is now viewed with dread. One wrong quote, one tweet, one subpoena, and the UFC finds itself at the center of another firestorm. Meanwhile, young champions like Ilia Topuria are being shaped, not just as fighters, but as brands. They're telling us straight up. One rising contender said, "You want to be champ? Act like one. Cameras are always rolling. Belts aren't just gold, they're investments. You screw it up, you pay for it." This is the new UFC built on violence, held together by discipline, and haunted by the specter of the man who once built it all, and might now be its greatest liability. And top fighters, imposing massive fines and suspensions for breaches of conduct, both inside and outside the cage. The new policies, quietly introduced but strictly enforced, signal a shift in the organization's priorities. Not only are athletic performances under scrutiny, but personal behavior now carries heavy consequences. This change stems partly from the UFC's growing image as a mainstream sport. Gone are the days when the organization could overlook fighters' off-the-cuff remarks or minor run-ins with the law. Today's sponsors, broadcasters, and regulators expect professionalism and accountability. Champions who violate these new standards are reportedly facing fines ranging into the six figures, sometimes up to $500,000, alongside suspensions and other penalties. The message is clear. The UFC wants its stars to uphold a clean image. The immediate repercussions are felt most keenly by fighters with public controversies. None more so than Conor McGregor. In a shocking turn, recent appeal of a guilty verdict in a sexual assault case has taken a dramatic twist. His legal team initially presented new evidence that purported to clear him, affidavits from a couple who claimed to have witnessed the alleged victim's boyfriend assaulting her instead of McGregor on the night in question. But on the very day the court was set to hear this evidence, McGregor's lawyers withdrew the affidavits. The sudden reversal shocked the courtroom and enraged the victim's legal team, who demanded an apology for re-traumatizing their clients. The judge promptly referred the matter to the Director of Public Prosecutions to investigate possible perjury. Even more dangerously for McGregor, prosecutors are considering an investigation into subordination of perjury, essentially accusing McGregor of encouraging false testimony. This legal quagmire threatens to drag McGregor through fresh criminal proceedings, potentially sidelining him from the sport indefinitely and increasing the likelihood of severe UFC sanctions. Dana White and UFC executives reportedly view McGregor's situation as a liability. With the sport's increased emphasis on discipline and image, the UFC may move to fine McGregor heavily or even suspend him until the legal issues are resolved. The UFC's message to its roster is unambiguous. Champions carry a responsibility that extends beyond the octagon. Breach the code, whether through legal trouble, substance violations, or behavior detrimental to the sport, and the penalties will be severe. Fines of hundreds of thousands of dollars are designed not only as punishment, but as deterrence, with fighter pay structures evolving and UFC's revenue growing exponentially. These fines hit where they hurt fighters' bank accounts and reputations. For McGregor, the stakes are even higher. As one of the sport's most lucrative stars, a suspension or heavy fine would mean a significant loss of income. Sponsors might distance themselves, and pay-per-view numbers could take a hit amid the legal chaos and disciplinary shakeups. Ilia Topuria's star continues to rise. Beyond his brutal knockouts of former champions and his clinical dominance in multiple weight classes, Topuria embodies the image the UFC now craves: disciplined, focused, and humble. Reports have surfaced about Topuria's lavish $2 million private gym inside his home, a symbol of both his dedication to training and the financial success his recent wins have brought. However, sources reveal Ilia comes from a wealthy background, supported by family money, a fact that contrasts with the classic narrative of a fighter who came from nothing. Meanwhile, Arman Tsarukyan, another rising lightweight contender, is making waves with his own success, albeit accompanied by his own share of flair and confidence, exemplified by his extravagant tastes, like indulging in expensive caviar. Idea of two fighters from affluent backgrounds battling for a UFC title raises an intriguing question about the changing demographics of MMA's elite. Traditionally, the sport has been populated by fighters who have struggled and sacrificed extensively, turning to MMA as a route out of hardship. But fighters like Topuria and Tsarukyan reflect a shift. Some of the sport's new faces come from means challenging the stereotypes of what a UFC fighter's background must be. And this wealth changes the stakes and dynamics inside the cage and out. Topuria's dominance was on full display in his dismantling of Charles Oliveira, a fighter known for his finishing ability and relentless forward pressure. Oliveira's head literally bounced off the canvas after Topuria's powerful strikes, showcasing Ilya's cold, heavy hands and all-around skill set. His technical mastery, balance, and fight IQ make him one of the most complete mixed martial artists in the sport. He doesn't just rely on striking or wrestling. He blends both with striking, clinch work, and relentless pressure. Yet questions remain about the UFC's matchmaking approach. After Topuria's big wins, the natural next step might be a showdown with top contenders like Arman Tsarukyan or even Islam Makhachev, a grappling specialist and pound-for-pound stalwart. Arman Tsarukyan, a formidable lightweight contender, has built a reputation on his aggressive style, wrestling prowess, and high fight IQ. He remains one of the top contenders lurking in the division, with an intense desire to prove himself against the best. In interviews, Tsarukyan has not minced words about his ambitions and frustrations. He's also candid about how his star power and name recognition pale in comparison to some newer fighters getting titled shots quicker. A possible jab at Ilya's fast rise to Tsarukyan's recent comments about his upcoming fight with Jack Della. Della highlight his strategic mindset, especially in countering opponents with diverse skill sets. He's confident that his wrestling will be decisive if he can control the fight early. Dana White and the UFC brass face a difficult choice. Navigating the lightweight division, the clash of personalities and styles between Topuria, Tsarukyan, and other contenders like Paddy Pimblett, Justin Gaethje, and Islam Makhachev means the UFC must balance competitive integrity with marketability. The fan favorite Pimblett, known more for his charisma and crowd appeal than pure technical skill, complicates the narrative. Some insiders believe the UFC is tempted to push Pimblett into big fights for the excitement and ticket sales he brings, even if it upsets the rankings order. This potential for show fights versus merit fights raises questions about the UFC's long-term strategy. Whether sporting merit or entertainment value will reign supreme. The UFC today stands at a crossroads. On one hand, the company is cracking down on fighters' conduct, demanding professionalism and imposing steep penalties on rule breakers. On the other, it faces the commercial pressure to deliver memorable, high-profile bouts that sell pay-per-view and capture public imagination. Conor McGregor's ongoing legal drama encapsulates the risks the sport faces. One misstep or scandal from a top star can spiral into financial and reputational disaster. Meanwhile, the rise of Ilia Topuria, Arman Tsarukyan, and others symbolize the new wave of fighters who must navigate this evolving landscape, balancing discipline, performance, and the business realities of modern MMA. As the UFC's champions and contenders step into the cage, they are not just fighting for titles, but also fighting to uphold the sport's integrity, its image, and its future.